All right, David.
All right, we're live. Now is your turn to say that.
Yep.
We are going live. Since we are not in the same studio anyway. I'm not in the studio.
We are not, and you are boots on the ground right now, and you will
Yeah,
be for a little while longer until we can get you back in the studio. But
I
it's
know.
actually very cool that instead of just, sitting in a studio or sitting in an armchair, you are out in the world trying to figure some of this out for yourself. And I
Oh
think that
yeah,
that
because it
bodes a lot of respect.
yeah, well, it's always I always believed in being on the ground when you do assessments or analysis, whatever that is, because it gives you a better understanding, a better read of how the events are unfolding. Then you can reach your own conclusion based on that. Then you share it with your, the viewers and our members and so forth. And that's what I've always believed in. So I don't like to conduct an analysis from an armchair. I don't
Absolutely.
I don't believe
Absolutely.
in that.
Actually, you have a really good story about that. I where before we dive into the topic, if you're willing to share that, where there was an analyst that came when you were in the military. Can you share that story or no?
Yeah, sure, sure. That was in Iraq when I was in Iraq and somebody came in and he was a representative of State Department, I guess, and they were like, "Well, we're here to make some assessments, and before we send the information to the higher ups in Washington D.C." I said, "Well, that's great. That is great. How about if we go downtown Baghdad?" "Oh no, Mister. Oh, we
Mm,
can't go there." I said, "Why not?" I see why you need to go, so you will be able to see with your hand. Well, you see with your own eyes to see the reality for what it is. So when you make your assessment, whoever the higher up is going to read up that will have a better understanding. Oh, he said no. After I saw the info that came out as far because before that it was one of my colleagues was in a car and that car was sprayed with bullets. She survived, and after he saw that, he was like, "No, no, 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 I'm not going." I said, "Well, how can you make an objective assessment?"
right.
So, and the president ended up making decisions for a whole country that he or she will have no clue about the reality. So that's why
Right.
yeah, I like being on the ground, and so it gives me a better perspective. So
Well, and it
anyway,
certainly gives you a more accurate perspective.
that's true. That's true because you are seeing the events with your own eyes,
Hmm.
And of course, you're not going to be making up things here because that's problematic. If you just make up things, that's problematic. Your credibility will be shattered
Hmm.
beyond any repairs. I've
Right.
worked hard to get to where I am, so that's why I have no tolerance for whatever because of what I had to go through to
Hmm.
build that credibility. So, and I have to make sure to protect it. And how you protect it? By being honest, by being straightforward,
Right.
but also by having the ability to say, I don't know when I don't know. I
Absolutely.
can't just make up answers. So I don't do that. So anyway, we are so excited to be here with you guys. I know this is the second day in a row. Usually we don't do that much, but hey, that's how it is today. So,
Hmm.
what are we going to be talking about today, Elizabeth?
So, a very interesting thing happened that Western media isn't talking about almost at all or at all. The amount of people that have heard about this is almost no one here in the West, but it's a really really big thing. And that is Imran Khan, who is the former prime minister of Pakistan, was freed. It's an interesting definition of freed, but he was freed. I think yesterday or today, depending on depending on what part of the world you're in.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
mass riots and the mass protests that have been going on in Pakistan because of his arrest.
yeah. Let me share a picture here. I have a picture of here he is on. Yeah, you guys can see it. He's in a car in
Yep.
the back, right here. Right here, that's when he was leaving the court. Well, of course, the circumstances under which he was arrested were questionable to begin with. And the being charged with corruption and all that, that's usually, it wasn't about just that. It was about
Mhm.
the manner by which he was arrested. And because
Right.
his critical voice of the government, in a way, even though he was served as prime minister, but he has a better reception with the Pakistani people than the other previous prime ministers. So Imran Khan, and usually these demonstrations will show you how much I won't use how many followers he has.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of followers. And this is why the question I will put for our viewer is this: in your opinion, do you believe Imran Khan will come back to power again? Because they're gonna have elections,
Mm-hmm.
and so if you want to leave your answer on the chat box, that would be great. So, and that is where the issue with it's the manners by which his case has been handled.
Right. And
Yeah,
there's some footage out there. I wish I could have found it, but I saw it actually on Redacted. Redacted did a very
yeah,
good show about this. They have footage of his actual arrest where they're breaking out the windows in the courtroom. They're breaking out the windows where he's literally sitting inside of a courtroom already,
yeah.
and they're breaking out the windows to get him, and just mass yelling, and he's sitting there with his glasses like this. Like, how could this is so crazy, how could this be happening?
And right there, it tells you the disconnect between the Supreme Court, Pakistan, and the government.
Hmm.
And we're going to get into the little details because I'm very familiar with that country. I used to go a lot to Afghanistan. So and speaking of Afghanistan, that might be a good idea for us to start about the geography of Pakistan,
Hmm.
because it's very important to understand. And I have a picture here I'll share with our viewers here. For Pakistan, its geography is very important. So you have, for example, which is located in South Asia. You have India borders Pakistan to the east, China to the northeast, Afghanistan to the west, and Iran to the southeast. And this is why it's very, very important to understand the geography, the location. It's a strategic location. The
Hmm.
US, we always had an interest in Pakistan. Of course, not because just the nuclear weapons they have or they acquired, but also because the strategic location that is served for us in Afghanistan and in whole South Asia part. That is why. Of course, the trouble in Pakistan has to do with its own history. You know, Pakistan is a very, very complicated country.
Yeah.
The West will not, it's not easy to understand it because it's a tribal society. It has to do with tribes. Anytime you have tribes, that's like exactly what it was in Iraq, for example.
Hmm.
The reason Iraq was the way it was is because of the tribe. And anybody who becomes a president or head of that state, whatever, has to ensure the support of the tribe.
Yeah.
Without that, nobody will survive. That is what's important about understanding Pakistan because its history. I think I have some image here. No, no, that's all. I have another image later on. Uh, for Pakistan, it emerged on the world as an independent state back in I think it was 1947, if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
somewhere around that. And it was, how did it came up? Not independently. It came up as a result of the division that Britain did at the time for India,
Right.
because Britain had to divide Indian empire. So,
Hmm.
and this is where Pakistan came in. Of course, it's a massive landmass, about 900,000 square kilometers. I mean, it's not a small.
Right, and
So
it has a large population too. I actually didn't realize it had such a large population. It's 220 million people.
actually, it's
Ah,
235.
235 million people. That's
Yeah,
a lot. That's
yeah.
a lot of people. That's
For
most
that
of,
country,
yeah, for that
yes.
country.
Yeah, as of 20, actually, it has, as of 2022, it
Mhm.
has about 1.9% increase from 2021.
Wow.
What makes Pakistan very interesting is the regions. When you look at about the whole Pakistan area, you have to always remember the Punjab, the Sindh, the Khyber, the Baluchistan, the federal administered tribal areas, Islamabad, and so forth, Jammu, Kashmir, all those are very, very crucial to how Pakistan is managed, sort of, not only from when it comes down to social relations, but also from a political aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, just for you guys, for our viewers here, for you to know the complications. That's why Pakistan, every prime minister, hardly ever, if you go back to the history of Pakistan, hardly ever any prime minister serves the full term, his or her full term,
Mm-hmm.
except for Benazir Bhutto, who was assassinated by a 15-year-old suicide bomber.
Wow.
Yeah,
You know,
which
it's interesting. So Imran Khan, he has created somehow this massive support behind him. Because, even as you're talking about, the prime minister is not really lasting their full terms.
no,
What's
no.
different about him, do you think, that he's really caused this level of uproar, this level of uprising? Because I mean, these mass protests. These aren't small.
No, well, because first of all, he has the support of the whole Punjab area. Punjab
Mm.
area has a lot of people in it. If you can, at least as an observer, anytime you have elections, if you win Punjab, then you are almost guaranteed the premiership.
Mhm.
And Imran Khan has a strong command of the Punjab followers. The reason being because he is advocating for Pakistanis.
Yeah.
That is one of the things they like about him. He is a sort of wants to move Pakistan beyond, basically change the status quo.
Mhm.
And into that, he run into the establishment. It's like
Yep.
we have here.
Absolutely.
It's a slightly different over there. Why is different? Is because of this entity here.
Mhm.
This one is the ISI, the inner service, the Pakistani inner service intelligence agency. It's very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, it's not about corruption because it is. It's involvements in managing the political path of the country.
Yeah.
And this is why any prime minister who wants to survive and, of course, serve his or her full term will have to be aligned with the ISI,
Mhm.
the Inner Services Intelligence, which, by the way, here is what's interesting fact about it. ISI was founded 1 year after independence, which means in 1948. And guess who found it? None
Who?
other than an army officer from Britain,
Mm.
Major General R. Cowthorne. Cowthorne was Major General in the British Army, but he was also the Deputy Chief of Staff in the Pakistani Army. That's crazy.
Yeah. That is
Yeah, you
crazy.
served in two positions.
Mhm.
So at that time, he was Field Marshal. His name is Ayub Khan. Was the president of Pakistan in the 50s, and that's the one. This guy who
Mhm.
expanded the role of the ISI. So ISI role grow as year after year, to the point of becoming very powerful. To the point that
Mhm.
now the prime minister himself cannot challenge the ISI.
Yep.
And that's why Imran Khan is being dragged into the court, and all this is because he didn't see eye to eye with the ISI.
Mhm.
So that's one of the key factors to it. Let alone, of course, he refused to allow the United States to establish a drone base on Pakistani soil. That's one fact. But there is also some other arguments that suggested no, it doesn't just have to do with the US, it might be some other issues.
Mhm.
And then there might be truth to it. But as one who spent time near that country, so I'm very familiar with Islamabad, I'm very familiar with Rawalpindi, and you can just see how the dynamics inside Pakistan. Even when we were in Afghanistan, most of some of the The issues we used to deal with in Afghanistan were managed from Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
That's how complicated Pakistan is. What makes Pakistan of concern? Because this, what just happened, it's of concern, at least the way I see it. You're
Mm-hmm.
looking at a social chaos in a
Right.
country that is its economy is about to collapse.
Mm-hmm. That's a really big part of this. So, David, one of the things that the news is definitely not picking up on is the
Yeah.
fact that their inflation is runaway.
Oh
So
yeah.
they have runaway inflation. We think inflation here is bad, which to be clear, it is really bad here,
Yeah.
but they have real runaway inflation. They're at, I think, 19%.
It's bad.
According to the government, it's 19%. So you can
Yeah.
you can probably tell what it actually is on the ground if you're someone who's trying to buy food every day. But
Yeah.
it's at 19%. But the biggest thing is the IMF, they're looking at the IMF to give them a loan, right? Because otherwise they're sunk. They're in the tubes. And so it's interesting also that all of this political unrest is going on at the same time that they're economically in a terrible position. And so the IMF is looking at basically rescinding or taking back their monetary support. And if they do that,
Yeah.
Pakistan
Oh, it's
is
bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pakistan is in a lot of trouble. And so I think that's another really important part of this is, people going to the streets because their situation is pretty dire. When you have 20%,
Yeah.
almost 20% inflation on the books, that's a really serious situation.
Yeah. What makes Pakistan even worse in this scenario? It has nukes.
Mhm.
It's not a laughing matter
Right. No,
because
that's
if
very
these nukes
serious.
get loose, if somebody gets the hand of that.
Mhm.
Now, here is where the role of the ISI came in.
Okay.
And this is something we in the United States, we've been having a hard time to allocate where those nukes are. And the ISI didn't ever wants to share that information, and I never expect them to do anyway. It's
Mhm.
because it doesn't make any sense for them to do so. The concern with that is that ISI has, I won't use the term control over, but it has oversight over the nukes, where the nukes are.
Mhm.
And this is why the the ISI establishment, which by the way is corrupted, I don't shy away from saying this, is because I kind of used to follow up on their dealings with in
Yeah.
Washington when I was in my days there, and what you end up having, either the prime minister or members of the ISI end up having their assets in Britain. You know, with the
Mhm.
current guy, the chief of the army, General Bajwa, he has assets in Britain. I'm not saying that's through corruption. It just makes you wonder,
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, it was General Bajwa that ended up butting head with Imran Khan.
Mhm.
So as a matter of fact, there are some reports that I read. It was General Bajwa that paved the way to pull the rug
Mm.
from under Imran Khan's feet.
Yeah.
Why? Why? Because General Bajwa wanted one specific individuals to head the ISI, and back then Imran Khan wants another one.
Mhm.
They didn't get along over that because the appointments of the ISI is so crucial because the establishment is under the control of the military.
Right.
That is where that it's not a discrepancy. Is that's how their system is.
Mhm.
But ISI over the years, over decades, end up gaining more power than every Pakistani knows. That is the ISI that runs the government, not
Mhm.
the prime minister. With
Mhm.
Imran Khan, he wanted to change the status quo. He wants to really change the direction of the country. And the establishment, ISI in this case, will not be willing to relinquish that. This is
Yeah.
why you have always tensions with prime ministers. If you go back to Bhutto's assassination, and even before her dad, Dilfakar Ali Bhutto, when he was hanged by the military, he was
Mm.
hanged by the military.
Jeez.
Zia ul Haq was shut down. His plane was shut down, and they said it was an accident. Uh,
Ah. an
Yeah,
accident, I'm
yeah.
sure.
So you get the idea of how
Hmm.
this is why it's so complicated when it comes down to Pakistan.
Yeah.
And to a Westerner, he or she's gonna look at Pakistan and say, "Oh yeah, it's Muslim country, and that's there is more than that. There
Hmm.
is more than I meet the eyes." You think about what's taking place in Afghanistan, it has to do with what's going on in Pakistan, you know. And now you have the issue of the Kashmir, which is a serious tension points between India and Pakistan. Both
Hmm.
of them are nuclear armed. Just to follow up on our conversation yesterday about where the next nuke could be, not
Hmm.
between these two, because Kashmir is also of think of it like the borders between India and China. Now you got Pakistan and India regarding Kashmir. That's
Hmm.
how sensitive that issue is. And for us, the United States government, that is, we can pressure both countries just from that particular location.
Yeah.
That's what makes it very, very concerned. The concern I have personally with these dynamics that if Pakistan falls into social chaos, the next step is going to be a civil war because
Yeah.
economically it's on the verge of collapsing. They
Right.
cannot afford more loans from the IMF, and
Hmm.
IMF is going to extend them loans, and it's exactly what is happening in Argentina that
Hmm.
they need to pay off their $45 billion. This from the loans they get back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So Pakistan seems to me it's been going into that direction.
So you want to hear actually a very interesting thing about the
Sure,
IMF loans. So
sure.
I did some digging into the IMF loans.
Mhm,
So Pakistan originally started looking for bailouts for IMF loan bailouts in 2019. And the amount that they were asking for in 2019 was 6 billion US dollars, right? So it was 6 billion dollars, which is already a lot. But
mhm,
then because of, everything that happened over the last, over the last couple of years, they named the pandemic, they named XYZ, right? Now
mhm.
they're asking for 36 billion and they're in dire need because they're going to default if they don't
Yeah,
get 36 billion from the IMF. That's a huge jump in just a few years. That's 4 years,
yeah. It's a
give or
lot.
take. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
And if they don't, you're absolutely right. But the IMF is very seriously considering not giving them this loan because of the social unrest. And so if they don't get this loan and it collapses, you're having even further unrest. So it's very interesting actually to watch this happen because it seems very strange priorities, but they
Mhm.
must be very scared that Imran Khan is going to come back into power
Power.
if they're doing this for him. Do you think that's true?
Yeah. Well, that's a possibility because that's the reason why I asked the question for our viewers
Mhm.
if they want to leave us answers on the chat room if they feel like it. But that is because it's a legitimate question to ask.
Right.
Can he come back to power? In my opinion, yes, he can.
Mm.
If they have fair elections, that guy can come back to the premiership again. Except
Mhm.
that this time around, they could take him out. It's the exact way they did with Bhutto, Benazir
Yeah.
Bhutto. As a matter of fact, the 15-year-old guy, that was just the one in front. They never, ever arrested who ordered
Mm.
the assassination.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when Pervez Musharraf, the former general of the army who became the prime minister, the head of the government there, when he was asked about it, he was asked about it. He stated, and it's on a record. If people know where to look, he stated on a record that the government could have been involved in it.
Mm.
Now here is guy from the government saying that yes, the government could be involved in it. And as a matter of fact, Benazir Bhutto, before she died, uh, uh, made a phone call to her when she was in Washington. you know and
Wow.
he said it will not be safe. And again,
Yep.
there is the record for all this. It will not be safe for you to come back to Pakistan. The way she interpreted that as a threat to her
Mhm.
life. That's how is the complications of it.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of people, you have to truly understand the culture to understand how Pakistan came to be and what he went through to understand what's taking place in the government. There is no easy
Absolutely.
solution, by the way. And this is why I am thinking in terms that if Imran Khan wins the re-election again or runs for office, this time he might not make it
Hmm.
because the ISI is not going to like that. And also, there is a point into this that could it be that the ISI is feeling threatened?
That seems so. What he got hit with was 100 charges,
Yeah,
right? So this
yeah,
isn't, they didn't just hit him with one or two.
no,
They were
yeah,
like, here's 100. Let's see if we can make this stick.
yeah. So because each one of them is going to be saying, like the corruption part,
Mhm.
he already stated, that just made up thing. Of course, they're going to have to run the course of investigations and so forth. But we
Right.
all know how these things work. You drag this forever, and because the
Hmm.
fear that he could change the direction of the country, that
Yeah.
will take away power from the ISI you know but again, there is another issue behind all this, and it has to do with, yes, he did refuse to allow the United States a military base on Pakistani soil for the drone. It's
Hmm.
because, to some people who might not know the workings inside between Washington and Islamabad, is we used to give them money behind closed doors. That has nothing to do with the IMF. As a matter
Hmm.
of fact, we loaned Pakistan about $10 million to get the support that we wanted and we
Hmm.
needed. And that money has never been used to serve the Pakistani people. That money ends up in private accounts in Europe. This
Yeah.
is why the heads of the ISI, the heads of even a prime minister sometimes can get corrupted. In the case of Benazir Bhutto, her husband, what's his name? I forgot his name. It'll come to me. Her husband was even looked into being a complicit, an
Mm,
accomplice,
yeah.
comes into the. He said, "No, that's ridiculous." Whatever. But Zardari, that's his name, Zardari, Arif Zardari, and yet they found that the guy had assets in England.
Hmm.
So how come all of a sudden those individuals end up acquiring massive assets in Europe while the Pakistani people suffers?
Right.
Yeah.
That's so different than many other governments, of course.
Yeah, yeah, and the
I'm sure
money
that's
we,
new and a
yeah.
surprise to everyone listening.
Yeah, and of course, for us, the taxpayers,
Mhm.
I had an issue with that. I don't mind helping, but
Right.
if money ends up in the private accounts of the head of states of whatever country we give the money to, we got a problem with this.
Right.
You have to blame our government. I have to blame the people responsible for that or in charge of that, because to me that's another
Mhm.
form of corruption, no more, no less.
Well, and I wanna, because this, I don't know why everybody wasn't talking about this, but the Pentagon, remember, everyone, they failed their audit, I think, for what, the 5th time in a row? Something like that. They
Yeah.
failed their audit for the multiple time in a row, and they don't know where $2 trillion is.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? I think it's a little over that. If you guys have the exact number, put it in the chat. I think it's 2.3 trillion or something like that. But just as a reminder, the Pentagon, nah, I don't know where it is. Two
Yeah.
over $2 trillion,
Yeah.
right?
And this, for example, the case of the Imran Khan, it highlights those discrepancies because
Mhm.
it's our money that is going, but it's not going for a good cause.
Right.
That's the problem with that. At the same time, I would not even give money out because I'd rather take care of our own issues here at home
Right.
when we got plenty, because we have plenty of stuff to deal with. So
Well, and
now
that's
here's one thing I want to share quickly before I forget, because usually when you think about the role of the ISI, those think of the ISI as our Central Intelligence Agency. That's basically what it is,
Mhm.
just with more power. Even though our agency has more
Yeah.
power inside. When you have the agency sort of hacking into the computer of members of Congress, That tells you the story right there.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting about this, as one who worked in Washington, again, it's not classified because I can't talk about sensitive stuff, of course. But if you think about how, for example, intelligence services communicates, the head of a foreign intelligence service, the best places to meet, believe it or not, to meet the world most interesting either national security or officers or foreign policy personalities are no longer Washington or London or
Mm-hmm.
Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. Now, the highest one on the list, guess what? It's Beijing, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Doha.
Mm-hmm.
So, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because Pakistan, when he wants help, usually the Saudis will write a check for them for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day I was in Saudi Arabia for work at that time, and all of a sudden, here is the head of the ISI flying to Saudi Arabia
Looking for.
unannounced. Exactly, because Saudis can write $100 billion check or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they want to write, But there is a reason for why Saudis will write a check for
Yeah.
Pakistan. They don't do it any as much as they used to, not anymore, you know. But they because they argue that it's Muslim country and all that, but it has
Mm-hmm.
nothing that it has to do with some other issues. Unfortunately, it's too sensitive. I don't feel comfortable talking about it here on this platform.
Well, that's okay. You're bringing up a very interesting. You're bringing up an interesting topic. Oh, I think we got. Oh, Timothy Yee. Thank you for your super sticker. It is very much appreciated, guys. Thank you so much for your support. It is very much appreciated.
Yeah. And if it is your first time watching this, please subscribe. We truly appreciate it. So
Yeah, it really actually does help the algorithm. It really does help YouTube promote us to other people so that they too can hear, some of the things that the Western media isn't covering, but that are really critically important in the world and that are really critically important to get out there. So I want to bring up, there's a lot of really controversial
of
stuff
course,
about the Imran Khan situation.
yeah.
One of them is, and this is a heavily debated part of this
Mhm,
whole issue, and
mhm.
that is it a result of a US coup that has failed that he was ousted to begin with?
I will categorize it within that setting, but won't give it the strong terminology as a coup. You
Okay.
know, yeah, because to me, again, I was following what was going on right after the announcement by the premier's office, the premiership or the prime minister's office, when they announced, uh, because he announced it publicly,
Mhm.
openly to the rest of the world, that he said, and I remember, I'm going to just paraphrase, not a quote for word. He said, Imran Khan in this case, will not allow the Pakistani soil to be used as a military base for drones to
Mhm.
attack Afghanistan. That's the paraphrasing of it.
Yeah.
So basically, what I was saying is he doesn't want the US to open a drone base on Pakistani soil.
Mhm.
And right after that statement, things took a nosedive. All of a sudden, you start having tensions between the ISI and the prime minister's office. And
Mm.
one thing led to the next. I remember the meeting between General Bajwa and the prime minister at that time. It was a tense meeting. I mean, they maintained civility per se. But what was the issue of that was the nomination of the head of the ISI.
Mhm.
General Bajwa wanted specific individual. Imran Khan wants another one, and that created tension, and that paved the way for the rest of the story till he was charged with corruption and all that stuff. So
All
that's the
right.
background story to it.
Okay, I'm going to dive into this a little bit further because this I
Sure.
feel like is kind of where the real juice of this is.
Sure.
Because you're right, this is kind of a complex situation. But
Yeah.
I want to thank Raphael for his super sticker. Thank you, Raphael. Raphael, I think you're also a member of our channel. So
Oh, yeah.
when we get to 100 members, guys, we are going to start doing lives. So if you hit that button that says join, we're looking to get to 100 members, and when we do, we're going to do exclusive lives for you guys. Okay, so back to this topic really quickly, because this I think is one of the most interesting parts of this situation, because there's always what happens on the outside, right? There's always what the news says is happening, and the politicians themselves say is
Hmm.
happening, and the organizations say is happening, right? The official narratives. But
Yeah.
it's also interesting that Imran Khan was in Moscow. He was in Russia
Hmm.
when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Hmm.
That's very interesting timing. And I think he and Putin had a conversation the day before that. What
That
do
is
you
correct.
think what do you think about that situation? And do you think that ties into the fact that he was ousted also? Because, the United States at first was, saying, "Oh, it's not a proxy war, it's not a proxy war." Just like the Fed was saying
Yeah.
inflation is transitory, and then it wasn't. And then now, the United States has taken a stronger and stronger stance. And then, some people have said the quiet part out loud, where they're talking about this actually being a proxy war with Russia. And so you're looking at Imran Khan, he's in Moscow at the exact same time
Same
that
time.
Putin
Yeah.
is invading Ukraine. So
Yeah.
do you think that's related in any way?
Well, first of all, let me challenge you on this,
Okay.
because I don't call it as an invasion. That's a military operation. It's because when you invade the country, you take over the country.
Mm,
That's and again, you're entitled to your opinion and to the wording, whatever, but I always use the term personally. For me, it's military operation. So yes, you're absolutely correct. He went there, and it was during the same time. Also, because the fear of the United States that Pakistan is not going to sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Join the club of the Western Europe in sanctioning Russia, because
mhm.
Pakistan end up not doing it. You know,
Right.
same way India at first were hesitating, then all of a sudden they end up bringing oil from Russia, challenging the United States. You're absolutely correct on the timing of it.
Mhm.
This is why nothing in geopolitics happens in a vacuum.
Right.
There is always a timing to it.
Right.
So, but there is another reason to it also, because while Russia provides India with weapons, it could also shift that to Pakistan.
Mm. That would be a really big deal. That would be a game
Well,
changer.
it will be, because here is the thing. India is considering purchasing S-400 missile systems. Those are
Mhm.
very advanced. Pakistan doesn't have those.
Yeah.
That means what? That means Pakistan will have to reach out to Russia. When it
Right.
comes down to weapons, countries don't care. They just have to sell.
Right.
We do that. So
Right.
Russia will do that. China will do that. So be it. That's how it
Mhm.
works. But that is the reason why Imran Khan went to Russia, because he wanted to secure, just in case. Because if you notice, between India and Pakistan, anytime India purchase some sort of advanced weapon, Pakistan will do the same, and
Mhm.
vice versa.
Mhm.
That's just the norm over there. That
Yeah.
it's been for day. We create we when I say we, I mean the West, collective West, but
Mhm.
mainly Britain set up that kind of setting, and we took over after the 60s, moving forward, and still till today. This is why the fear in the West that if Imran Khan comes back to power, this is why you have 100 charges, because if you get
Mhm.
rid of one, you still have 99 to go.
Right, right. If you get rid of 50, you still have 50 to
Exactly.
go.
You're absolutely correct.
Mhm.
You're absolutely correct. The problem with all this is that the calculations of it.
Mhm.
Can you just imagine a civil war in Pakistan with a nuclear weapon?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the concern. That's where my concern personally, because what you have in Pakistan, you have rogue elements.
Yeah.
They exist. You won't believe how influential they are inside the country.
Well, and the people seem to know that, right? Like, as you're looking at the TikToks, because I know they cut off the internet, right? So,
Yeah.
to what extent I don't know, but some TikToks and all of that sort of got out, with a lot of this footage. So you can actually see a lot of footage of what's going on.
Hmm.
And and they're all saying that, like, a lot of the social media that we're getting out of there is the social media that's been able to get out of there
Yeah.
actually has been, people talking about that specific thing, that, the military has become too powerful, the ISI has become too powerful. And the
Sure.
problem with that is, if you have entities that are doing right by their people and they have a lot of power, there's not a problem. But when you have 20% inflation, for example, and people are suffering as a result of the people who are in power, that's when you end up having large, large protests like this, riots. I don't even know really what the right word is for this, but it
Yeah.
it is people who are actually taking a stand for that. They don't want this for their country. They can't do this anymore. They don't want to do this. They
Yeah.
want something better for themselves, and they see it in Imran Khan.
And you look at it also from the population perspective. Within a decade or so, you could be seeing about 250 million plus.
That's a
For
large
yeah, for a
population.
country, yeah, for a country that does not have the economic resources, and the government will not be able to sustain all that. This is where that danger is, and to me, it's a ticking bomb waiting to go off.
Reed, thank you for your super sticker. It is very, very much appreciated. We
Yeah.
really appreciate that, guys. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Um
yeah, because we're just doing it on our own. I'll say it.
No, it's true. The
Because
reality is
no, it's true.
we
I
are doing
agree.
this on our own. And yeah, we we're a small organization, but we're really dedicated. And that's why you guys are so important to us, is because, we can't do this without you. And we do it
Well,
for you.
yeah.
So you are really very important to us, and we very much appreciate the support.
Well, I'm sure they do appreciate the value of the information, Elizabeth. You know,
Well,
they,
it's information that isn't
they,
being
they know,
talked about.
they know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you look at it through the questions and
Mhm.
comments they post. I mean, how intelligent they are,
Yeah.
and I kind of read that stuff, and I'm really happy with sort of. It gives me hope. It
Yeah.
really gives me hope that there are good people out there that truly gets it and understand and willing to spread the word about it. That's why, yeah, we don't have what we have, whatever we have, we work with. And it's their support that matters the most,
Mhm.
because those will be the best conduit for us to grow bigger, and because they are part of it. They are part of the community.
Mhm.
So that's why I truly appreciate the support and the kind interaction. And most of the time when I read the stuff, if it's not most all the time, it's a
Mhm.
civil. It's very civil. You don't see
Yeah.
gone. I there were some elements about a year ago or so. I had some harsh word to them, and I think they gone. So too bad.
Well, and I guys, I want you to know that David reads every single comment. So even if he doesn't respond to them, he reads every single comment, and I read most of the comments. And the truth is that you guys are a wonderful group. You're intelligent, your comments are intelligent, and even if you don't agree with each other or agree with us,
That's
you're
fine.
able to
It's
it's
fine.
that's totally fine. In fact,
Yeah.
that's encouraged. You might have different information than we have. You
Yeah.
might have a different perspective, but we very much appreciate the difference of opinion also, because that's what this is really about. Together we figure out the truth. We're not in the rooms of the people that are making those decisions, but we are on the ground, and together we can make this world a better place for everyone, and especially as we really are becoming a multipolar world. that kind of cooperation and dialogue, I think, is what will make that work, and not into something terrible, but into something beautiful. Because I actually have a lot of faith in humanity. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I have a very deep seated faith in humanity, that humanity really will figure this out, but we'll
Well,
figure it out together. And you guys
let's
are part of that with us. So thank you
let
for being part of that with us.
uh, let's hope that we all do it together. So as a community. So, what on that wonderful, beautiful note, I'm gonna say I will give it. I will turn it over to you, Elizabeth, for the last word, if you have any.
I have oh wait, nope. Oh, thank you. Already, you guys are an alternative. Thank you. But I'm trying to hit this one. Um, Balugi the Beluga. Thank you
Hold
very
on.
much for your
Let
super
me see
sticker.
that. I
It's
like
very
to
much
pronounce it.
appreciated. And
Balogi do Baloga. That's interesting. Thank you so much. Uh, where
um
am I? I'm in Morocco. I'm in Africa. Yeah, that's what I'm at. So on
um
the ground. On the ground.
yes. And we were in Europe not too long ago. Not going to tell you guys exactly where, but we were in Europe not too long ago and checking out some boots on the ground
Yep.
stuff there too. Oh, really quick, where's everyone from?
Oh yeah.
I always love hearing that. Where is everybody from? That's one of my favorite things to do. And just sort of as a last note before before we go, I think that it's interesting, listening to the White House press conference where this was the first question asked. So,
Mm.
what is the White House's stance on what's going on in Pakistan? And the answer was that they didn't have a stance. They basically said, we're minding our own business on this one. But the wild thing about that is, when has the US minded its own business when it looked like democracy was being thwarted?
Toward it, right?
When? That seems unreasonable that the US would keep this stance. And the UK actually had a very similar stance where it was basically like, we're going to let them do whatever it is that they're going to do, because we support countries doing whatever they want. And we're not going to butt in to that. When historically, even right now, that's absolutely not what's happening, right? Like, we're looking at the situation even with NATO and Ukraine. And the
Yeah,
US
yeah,
provides most of the funding for NATO, right? But they were very quick to step into that situation. And
yeah.
so and many, many other situations like it. So it just seems interesting that they just have no opinion on it. Just, it's fine. This is fine.
Yeah, that's the norm from Washington. When, as the saying goes, when Washington doesn't like the message, it tends to
Mhm.
shoot the messenger.
It
Uh,
sure does. Apparently Washington is not the only place that does that.
I know,
Um, okay,
always.
one last super chat, and it's a question
Well, let me see here. I may pull
from
my reading
Hong.
glasses. Oh yeah, Hong Leong. Okay, Dr. David, what is your thoughts on the I2U223? What am I referring to here?
I do not
Yeah, I
know.
do not know what the two I2. If you can put the word there quickly, I2. I didn't see that one yet.
India, Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and the
Emirates
United
and
States.
yeah, the four others. They. Oh, I see. India, Israel, the United Arab. I really do not know exactly what the objective of it is. I do know there is a conversations regarding some economic aspects of it, because remember, India buys Israel's weapons, and those weapons are from the US, and the US is not happy about Israel sharing that with India. So there are some dynamics behind closed doors. So the short answer is I really do not know, and I'm gonna look into that and take a look at it, and if I get an answers and I am certain of those answers, I will be happy to share with that. So, but thank you so much for your question. I truly appreciate it. So,
All right.
all
Any
right.
last words,
Well,
David?
yeah, yeah. Well, next time I was thinking about doing a live stream just to share it with our viewers if they like us to do one on the statement by the U.S. about bombing Taiwan chip manufacturers.
Yeah.
You believe that?
Wild.
Yeah, if you guys want us to do that, just leave a comment in the chat or the comment section, and we'll be happy to do another live stream for you on this topic because it's very important to know the ins and outs of it. So well, with that, we wish you a good day, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you are in, and as always, prepare yourself for changing world order. Till next time, guys. Bye bye.